behalf of the Agricultural and Plantation Engineering Sectional Committee of the IESL. Actually, the ultimate objective of this online webinar is to make the members of IESL as well as the public aware about the modern organic farming technology. Thus, I cordially invite Dr. Ranil Sugatadasa, a member of our Agricultural and Plantation Engineering Sectional Committee, to continue this session by introducing and welcoming our guest speaker, who is committed here in this session to share his experience with our colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bowan, good evening, everyone. I think my task is to introduce Engineer Professor Tishan Jayasinha. I'm sure he doesn't need any introduction because he's been such a popular, great engineer known to each one of us. But I think as a formality, Engineer Hemachandra, the chairman of Agriculture Engineering Sectional Committee, invited me to introduce Engineer Professor Tishan Jayasinha formally. Simply speaking, Engineer Professor Tishan Jayasinha is a genius. And he has superb head brain that he has contributed immensely to civil engineering and structural engineering sectors of Sri Lanka, and civil and structural engineering community and students of Sri Lanka to a great level. And 30 years back, roughly, he studied artificial intelligence application in civil engineering and structural engineering. And now only it's a hot topic. And he studied that 30 years back. And in fact, he's having a great heart brain, even though sometimes he feels little discomfort when we are not in his speed. But he has very big heart brain filled with kindness and metta, especially towards the environment, planet Earth, and the entire universe. And he's an engineer with lots of gut brain to start anything new with so much of gut brain that he's an example engineer to each one of us. And I know his passion and burning desire into farming, agriculture, plantation, tea, and cinnamon for last 20 years, because I know that he's actually maintaining a great state into tea and cinnamon in Kiriel, near to my village. And I know the passion he has, and he's a practical doer, and he uses his geniusness in engineering to other fields, such as plantation and all. And that's, I think, what we have to do as engineers. And I'm quite sure that Engineer Professor Jayasinha will bring so much of inspiration to you, so much of knowledge to you from his practical experience with respect to modern organic farming technology. And I would like to invite you, sir, and the forum is over to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ranil, for that very good introduction. Thank you very much. And you know how we all started farming of tea, so and converting a rubber state to tea. So first I should thank Engineer Hemachandra for giving me this opportunity to share some of my experiences. And so basically the idea is to talk about modern organic farming technology and some research findings. So you might ask what the type of research I have done. Actually, what I have done is I have funded the research on organic farming done by a person with physical science degree. He is Mr. Ruchira Gunatilaka, and he has been doing this for a long time, but he was not having enough funding. So I started funding his research, and we did a lot of joint work as well. And we all started doing all this work in 2010, because I wanted to see that we move more and more into organic farming. So what I thought was, if the government is not going to do it, I'm going to do it myself. So we funded some communities, and we gave everything free and tried a lot of things. Some worked, some failed, but all those gave us a lot of experience. So I'm going to share some of our experiences with you. And And first, I would like to say a little bit about why I liked farming. And it all started when we were kids. In 1970, the government came, SLFP, Samasamaj Communist all-based government, which we call Samagi Perumana. And then there was an insurgency in 1971. And then we could see many hardships due to oil energy crisis in 1973. So this government actually thought it's ideal that we grow our own food. So they started something called Vaga Sangram. And as kids, we could see everybody cultivating something on their lands. And there were so many curbs those days. You cannot transport anything from one district to the other. And the government declared you cannot eat rice in public on Tuesday and Friday. And you have to look for alternatives like manioc, yams, and so on. So there were so many restrictions, but for a short time. But this forced our people to grow our own food. And all the imports were stopped. And that is the time the upcountry farmers started planting potatoes. So until that time, we were importing potatoes from India and other countries, and it all stopped. And that saved a lot of foreign exchange, and some of that was used to set up factories in Sri Lanka. So we had a lot of factories and a lot of production. Some were very high quality things, and some of medium quality, and so on. And there were enough shortages that forced people to always think outside the box. Because whenever you have a war or shortages, people try many things, and huge developments occur during those times. So even today we are having shortages, so we should not think about it negatively. We should think about it positively and see what we can get out of the mess. So sometimes we might emerge winners if we start thinking outside the box. And if you ask Engineer Anil Sugatdasa, he will talk about hours on this particular subject, thinking outside the box. So an overview of the presentation. First, I'll take an example of a 2-acre land which we have just filled. And let's say we want to convert it to a jack plantation. And how can we do it? The scientific basis for organic farming, converting from chemical-based farming to organic farming, making liquid fertilizer, making a modern organic farming technology, data-date technology for tea and pepper, good strategies for food. So there's a way that I'm going to organize it. Let's say we have got a land and we have filled it up with 2 meter thick laterite soil layer, thick layer. So we have compacted it and filled it. Now we want to convert it to a collection of jack trees. So how can we grow jack trees on red soil? Red soil is not fertile. It is full of desirable and undesirable bacteria. So first we have to see what are the desirable bacteria in the soil, what are the undesirable bacteria in the soil. The desirable bacteria in the soil are the aerobic bacteria, the bacteria that needs oxygen to survive. Then we have anaerobic bacteria. They are very harmful, nasty bacteria, and they don't need oxygen. So when you have hard soil, then you can find that can be full of anaerobic bacteria. So what is the problem with anaerobic bacteria? They damage the roots and kill the plants. So if you want to have a jack plantation, what we have to do is we have to excavate large pits. Then what we do is we fill that pit with green leaves or some kind of leaves, then soil layer, another layer, again soil, then again another layer, then again soil, and so on. We fill about 1 meter, 1.5 meters, and then we plant the jack tree what will happen? We'll add water initially, the jack tree plant will start growing. And after 6 months or so, you can see the jack plant. And now it is having some sufficient leaves and it will start flourishing on this loose soil. Why? The loose soil is full of aerobic bacteria. We don't get any anaerobic bacteria. And then what happens is this soil is now having some aerobic bacteria within the pit, and the tree is growing. So tree will make food. So what will happen to all this food? Tree will use some food above the ground, and tree will store some food below the ground. And this food, the tree will allow this food to be consumed by aerobic bacteria in the soil. It is the same way that jack tree will give us jackfruit. Similarly, jack tree will look after the aerobic bacteria in the soil. Why? Because jack tree knows if we nourish and allow aerobic bacteria, then anaerobic bacteria cannot come closer, because wherever there's oxygen, anaerobic bacteria dies. So what that jack tree does is it will start feeding the microorganisms in the soil, and in doing so, microorganisms will create a conducive situation in the soil so that the root system will grow deeper and deeper. And as it grows deeper and deeper, you get a huge zone of the microorganisms, and all the tree microorganisms will all thrive, whereas anaerobic bacteria will go deep and deep and deep into the soil. Sometimes you might find anaerobic bacteria cannot be found even up to 6 meters below the soil, because the root zone has grown so much. And we know when jack trees grow, they create huge root zones, and all those root zones will be full of oxygen and no anaerobic bacteria. And then we find after about 10 years, jack trees are fully grown and soil is not reddish color anymore. Soil has changed its color to brown to black. And when we see brown to black soil, we say it's fertile soil, good for planting many trees. Now you can see the reason for creating a big pit and fill it with layers of the leaves and soil is to create oxygen-rich medium in which aerobic bacteria can thrive. And we use the same method whenever we want to do tea plantation. We first grow banana. We grow banana for about 2 years. And what happens is banana tree is an invasive plant. And invasive plants will capture everything from the soil and grow very well. And in doing so, they will create a huge root zone. And that root zone can easily penetrate deep into the soil. When the banana tree is 1 meter tall, the root zone can be sometimes 3 meters deep. So we create a root zone and loose soil, and we make the soil fertile. And the moment you do that, you will find then you remove banana, but you don't remove the roots. Then you plant the vegetatively propagated tea, what we call VP. In Sinhala, we call it Rikilite, vegetatively propagated tea plants. And these tea plants will find soil is loose, soil has a lot of roots. So the roots of the tea plant can grow very easily into the soil, and the tea plant will grow very well. So we have various techniques, and it's very important we understand the scientific basis behind the plantation that we do. So the scientific basis is drive the harmful bacteria deep and deep and deep into the soil and feed the favorable bacteria, that is the aerobic bacteria, and get the plants to grow well so that they will start feeding these bacteria and allow the bacteria to thrive, and bacteria will create all the nutrients that the trees need. Trees will grow well. So in the theory in organic farming is we look after the soil, we do not look after the plant. Soil will look after the plant and plant will look after the soil. So we do not add any harmful chemical to the soil, because the moment you add any chemical to the soil, it can kill this very weak aerobic bacteria. But chemicals will never ever kill anaerobic bacteria because they are very harsh. So the bacteria that you find in the septic tank is anaerobic bacteria, and that kind of bacteria can be killed only by oxygen. Very hard to kill that type of bacteria. Whereas if you have a compost heap, what you get is aerobic bacteria, and that bacteria can be easily destroyed the moment you start adding chemicals. So some people are saying it's wrong for Sri Lanka to move suddenly from chemical-based farming to organic farming. But there's nothing in between. Either you use chemicals or don't use it at all. There's nothing in between. If you try to do anything in between, it will be chemical farm. So there's nothing in between. Either you do 100% organic or do whatever you want with chemicals. But there's nothing in between. If you are going for organic farming, you have to go 100% at once. It will be successful. Otherwise, if you have half-hearted attempt where you add some chemicals, some compost, nothing will work. So if you're adding chemicals, add chemicals properly. Otherwise, don't add chemicals at all. There's nothing in between. So the basis for chemical-based organic, the scientific basis for organic farming. Just one moment. Okay, we have talked about the jack plantation, the basis for chemical. All right. So the basis for chemical-based and organic farming. In popular chemical-based farming, we look after the plant very carefully to get the good. So when you are doing chemical-based farming, we totally ignore the soil. We look after the plant. So that's why, you would have seen sometimes some chemical-based farming can be done on water. They provide the nutrients, look after the plant, and they get a good crop. But one of the problems with chemical-based farming is they don't have a good method for natural control of weeds. So they use herbicides over weedicides. So what happens? When the paddy plant is growing, very early stage, we add all these weedicides, and that make the paddy plant weak. But paddy plant survives, but it becomes weaker. So when it grows, the plant has been affected initially at the very early stage. Because of that, the paddy plant is not able to resist insect attacks. So then we go to the next stage. We start spraying the cultivation with a lot of insecticides. And we say insecticides are poisonous, but still we spray it because we want to kill all the insects. And if you are doing chemical-based farming, you don't add insecticides in your paddy field. All the insects who are affected by spraying of insecticides in other fields will come to your field, and all the insects will destroy your field. So that's why we can't go halfway through. Either we do chemical-based or organic. Otherwise, if you have a mix, you will find, because you are not using any insecticides, all the insects will be attracted to your paddy field because you are not affecting them. So there's nothing in between. So we must go for proper farming techniques. Right. Then we look at the scientific basis for organic farming. In organic farming, we look after the soil, as I explained already. So we do everything possible to have a lot of microorganisms in the soil and also take steps to sustain those. So how do you sustain microorganisms? So we have to look at it. So we have to provide a lot of food to the microorganisms in the soil. So what we do is, before we do the planting, we try to provide as much food as possible for these bacteria, aerobic bacteria. We provide as much food as possible. So how do we provide food? Don't add the leaves that are dry, add fresh leaves. And people always say add albizia or vatamara or glycidia, and they say add mana, add ipilipil, add katurumurunga, add murunga. All these are nitrogen rich plants. You can add them. But if you don't have any of these, then if you have a mango tree, you cut few branches and add mango leaves. You have another jack tree, you cut few branches and add jack leaves. Any other leaf that you can find around you, that will make the soil fertile. So what you do is, if you have a land, new land, you want to make it more fertile, what you do is, you will divide it into strips of 600 millimeter width. And then you remove the soil in one strip, dump it on the other strip. Then you recreate the soil. This time you will add layer of soil, layer of leaves, layer of soil, layer of green leaves, layer of soil, layer of green leaves, and cover it up. Then what you do is you go to the next strip, remove the soil onto this one that you already done, do the same thing. This way, your intention is to have a lot of green leaves inside the soil. What will happen inside the soil with time? Once you generally do it close to the rainy season, so the rain comes, there's plenty of water, plenty of leaves, all these aerobic bacteria will thrive in your soil, and they will generate all the nutrients. They will make the soil loose. They will drive all the anaerobic bacteria deep into the soil. So now you plant whatever the plant you want. It can be chilies, it can be brinjals, or whatever you want. You will find now these trees have plenty of food, plenty of nutrients in the soil, and plants will grow. Plants will also start feeding the aerobic bacteria. Now you create a very balanced system where plants are looking after the soil, soil is looking after the plants, and we look after all by adding water if there's a drought. So we look after the soil by adding water, because carbon dioxide comes from the atmosphere. We add water. Because we have added all these leaves, then we also add to get phosphorus. We can add the banana trees. We can chop banana trees and then add all those. So, when you want to grow a plant, we need nitrogen, carbon dioxide, water. Carbon dioxide and water from outside, we can add water. We can add carbon dioxide. Plant can easily get carbon dioxide because the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere has gone up. So no problem of carbon dioxide. And then we need nitrogen, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and phosphorus. And the moment you add banana pieces, you'll get the banana trunk pieces, you get phosphorus. And if you add something like ash, you can get potassium. But because we have added so much potassium to our soils, there's no shortage of potassium in our soils. And then calcium and magnesium, you can add dolomite. So you can add dolomite powder to the soil, then you'll find soil is rich with all the ingredients that you need for a plant. And if you can add water, there's all the ingredients needed are there. And also the very favorable condition is available in the soil because soil is very, very soft and full of nutrients. And it will facilitate growth of a huge root zone, and the plant will start absorbing nutrients from a very large area. And in doing so, plant will grow very strong, and you will find that very easy to get a good crop. So that is a normal organic farming principle. So there's nothing in between. Either you do it organic or chemical. Don't try to do a mix, because mix will be considered as chemical-based farming. And if you are doing chemical-based farming, do it properly by adding good quality chemicals. Otherwise, don't add any chemicals to the soil. Because the moment you add chemicals, you are killing the desirable bacteria, which is the aerobic bacteria. Now, how do you add green leaves? The leaves are small. You can just add it directly, but you get straw, you get the larger plants, the larger leaves. Then what you can do is you can use a small machine like this. These machines are now readily available. You can buy these machines. So some machines are a little expensive, but you can hire the machines. And if you want to know, I'm running a YouTube channel to help various farmers who want to know how these things work. And that channel is called, you can get that channel by going into YouTube. You can type MTR Jaising SL Organic, MTR Jaising SL Organic. And this channel is created by one of the engineers, and I have funded it. And this channel, we have converted it to Tamil as well. So whether you know Sinhala or Tamil, still you can get, if you know one of those languages, you can learn about the modern farming techniques. So if you want to know about this machine, just watch this particular YouTube video. So I will share the presentation with you. So it's a small presentation. So you can, I will not convert it to PDF. I will share it as a PowerPoint presentation so that you will be able to get copy and paste all these YouTube addresses so that you can get, you can reach them. Right. So what happens within the soil? Favorable aerobic bacteria thrives in green leaf. They produce a lot of desirable substances. Plants will grow. And once the plants are growing, generally about 50% of the food produced by the plant is stored in the roots, and roots will allow the aerobic bacteria, desirable bacteria, to consume all these nutrients that the tree has created, so that they all thrive as one unit, looking after each other. Right. Now we have to address this important question. How do you convert chemical-based farming land to an organic farming land? So many say this cannot be done in one season, but we say it can be done in one season. But how do you do it is to do it carefully, and this can be done with a good success within one season. Use of chemicals will make the soil dead. So you have dead soil, no bacteria, no favorable bacteria. It can be full of undesirable bacteria, anaerobic bacteria. So what you have to do is you have to drive them deep into the soil. How do you do that? This is where we got it wrong. If you have been watching, you have seen ministers going and looking at compost heaps, saying it's wonderful, but it's a wrong technique. Why it's wrong? We bring all the good things like leaves, green leaves, banana trunks, anything you can find, cow dung, everything. And then we make a heap and we grow all the aerobic bacteria, and we allow all the aerobic bacteria to consume and create a compost. Create a compost. Now what we do is we add this compost to the soil. What will happen? Soil has got a lot of loose material, but there's nothing in it to be eaten by the aerobic bacteria. Why? Already over 6 months, aerobic bacteria has consumed everything in it. Now you add it to the soil, there's nothing in it to consume. So if you're adding compost, you must add green leaves. And you can get the same success if you add a lot of greens without adding any compost, because adding compost will make the soil loose, but it will not help the microorganisms to grow. So because of that reason, adding compost is a wrong technique. Then you'll ask why? Why all these agriculture officials are asking us to add compost? Add compost. So why it's wrong? It is wrong because by adding something dead, you are not going to make it. But we have seen agriculture officials advocating it. Why? And that is needed for chemical-based farming. Adding compost is a must for chemical-based farming, but not for organic farming. So they got it wrong. They got it totally wrong. Right. How to create a soil after chemical-based, how to create a good soil after chemical-based farming. So if you want to create a good soil, if you want to create a good soil with if you want to create a good soil after doing first we'll look at this one. How do you create a good soil with the chemical-based farming? You would have seen in 2007 we gave fertilizer subsidy, and all the farmers started using chemical fertilizer because it's given very cheap. When the government spends 3,000 rupees for 50 kilograms, it was given to farmers at 350 rupees. So all the farmers started adding chemicals. And in doing so, they killed all the aerobic bacteria in the soils. They made the soil dead. In a dead soil, what can happen next is anaerobic bacteria can now come to the surface and start attacking the roots. So when the roots are attacked, the plant is weak, then you find you are losing the crop. So the agriculture officials learned this hard way. Then they said, even when you're adding chemicals, still you have to add compost. And what is the reason for adding compost? Not to compete with chemicals, but to make the soil loose so that anaerobic bacteria cannot come closer to the plant and attack the roots. So the only reason why they advocated adding compost is to make sure soil is loose, full of oxygen, so that anaerobic bacteria cannot come and attack the roots. That is the reason. Then they adopted the same technique when the government said, let's go organic. They said, do the same thing, which is wrong. It is fundamentally wrong. So it is fundamentally wrong to add compost to a soil expecting it to become fertile. You might add few chemicals which are desirable, but you cannot make it fertile so that you can get a good crop. If you want to get a good crop, you must add green leaves to the soil And you can add cow dung, you can add cow urine, you can add anything you want. All those will help to create a rich system of microorganisms that are desirable for the plants. And so if you want to convert a chemical-based plantation where you are planting any kind of crop, stop chemicals 100%, add lots of leaves to the soil and start nourishing the soil and add sufficient water to the soil, the plants will grow because now you are looking after the soil, you are not looking after the plant. So this is the fundamental way of actually converting a chemical-based farming land to a organic farming land. So now I'm going to go into the next stage, that is the modern organic farming. But before I go into that, I can answer any question you want, or otherwise I can go further and answer the questions. And as far as I can see, in the chat channel, we have got about session recording. Right. Okay, we don't have any questions. Shall I move to the next one, or you want to ask any questions? In that case, I'll go to the next one. Right. So now you can see plants are there, plants are on their own. How can we help the plants? The easiest way to help a plant is to use the liquid fertilizer, because liquid fertilizer can be absorbed not only by the root zone but by everywhere in the plant. So the solution is start using liquid fertilizer. Use liquid fertilizer, naturally made liquid fertilizer. You must know how to make it. And there's a wonderful liquid fertilizer, and it's called Jiva Amurtha. And Mr. Ruchira is the one who told me how this can be done, because after its experiments in Mahaoya is about 20 kilometers from Padiyatala. Padiyatala is about 30 kilometers from Mayanga. It's in the Ampara district. So we did many things in that area for our research. So once the natural system of microorganisms are created within the soil, it's up to the plant to absorb its needs from the soil by having large root zone. However, it can be helped by using liquid fertilizer made from plants and cow dung. So what you need is 10 kilograms of cow's dung and 10 kilograms of Girisedia or Vetamara, 2 liters of cow's urine and 100 liters of water, but don't use tap water. Tap water is poisonous because it contains chloride ions. Chloride is poisonous for all the plants. So never ever use tap water. Always ensure that you have harvested some rainwater, or you get the water from canal or river or any reservoirs. Anything is okay except tap water. And if you can't do anything, you can use tap water, but always you can get better results by using rainwater or any other water from any other natural source. Don't use these treated drinking quality water. It's poisonous for plants. And that's why you can see whenever you add water from taps, plants do not die, but they do not grow. But on the other hand, the moment you add rainwater, plants grow very well. So these are things, but then you can chop all these things and mix it, and then add more than 1 kilogram of sugar, red sugar or brown sugar, 400 liters of water. And after adding this, you will mix it every day, morning and afternoon, but evening, but keep it closed. And fermentation will occur after 1 week. So after 14 days, 10 to 14 days, you will get a wonderful, after 10 to 14 days, you will get a wonderful fertilizer. And what you do is, you will dilute it 1 liter to 16 liters, put it into a spraying machine, spray it everywhere. Now this has been done, and Mr. Ruchira has created this video. The link is there, and it's called Chandanige Katava, and it's on YouTube, and it's about 30 minutes presentation on how two teachers, two voluntary teachers who did not have much money, did very successful paddy plantation in Mahawaya, and they were very successful. Now they are selling Jivamurtha at 250 rupees a liter, because you need only 5 liters per acre. You need only 5 liters per acre. So 1,250 rupees, you can spray Jivamurtha to your paddy field, 1 acre paddy field, and every 15 days you will spray it. Every 15 days you will spray it. The advantages are paddy will become heavier and it will all be full, and you get a huge crop, a much better crop. But still we are talking about traditional farming. And then you can also make liquid fertilizer, and that is not using, if you don't have cow dung, because finding cow dung is also a huge task these days. Then if you don't have anything, you can make your own fertilizer by chopping grass, mana, vatamara, suryakanta, anything you can get hold of, an invasive plant, chop it, and then put it to baskets at 2 kilograms for 10 liters. Keep it covered for 1 week. Within 1 week, it will all be, you'll get a thick liquid, dilute it 1:1, and then add it to the trees. If you want, you can spray it. If you want, you can add it to the roots. You can do whatever, but plants will grow very well. Plants will grow very well. And then, so you have 2 types of liquid fertilizer. One is when you have cow dung, cow urine, and vatamara all accessible, or mana all accessible, what you need is, you can make a wonderful organic fertilizer which is called Jivamurtha. When you don't have access to these ingredients, but you can find grass, mana, ipilipil, or any other invasive plants, then you can make another liquid fertilizer. And that what you do is you get 2 kilograms for 10 liters, leave it for fermentation for 1 week, closing it. After 1 week, what you do is you get the liquid out, dilute it 1:1, spray it to the plants. You can do it every week. You'll find all your home garden grows well. If you have paddy field, it will grow well. The plants will nourish, and it will not kill any of the bacteria in the paddy field. So you are looking after the soil. Now you are looking after the plant as well. Then now your success rate will be much higher. Your success rate will be much higher, and you can watch this video. This is the link for this one. This is the link for making this liquid fertilizer. They are all available on YouTube. Now how do you do modern organic farming? But modern organic farming, we go one step further. And for that, we need a machine called weeder. Weeder costs about 100,000 rupees. But the idea of the weeder is cutting, pressing the weeds into the soil. In doing so, it can cut the roots of the paddy tree as paddy plant as well. And then what happens is you will get shoots from the roots that have been cut. So right. So in modern organic farming, what we do is we use transplanting of the paddy. So when you are doing paddy plantation, there are two techniques. There are other techniques as well, but I'll discuss two main techniques. One is called broadcasting, which will need 50 to 60 kilograms of paddy per acre. And then on the other hand, where you are spreading, on the other hand, you need about 25 to 30 kilograms of seed paddy per acre when you are transplanting, where you transplant at close intervals like 6 inches, 6 to 7 inches. But you will need less paddy, seed paddy in this new technique where you are planting only a 9-inch interval, and you will use these liquid fertilizer to make the plants nourish in the early stages. And then when it is having roots, use the weeder to cut the roots. The moment you cut the roots with the weeder, the roots will start shoots. So from one paddy seed, you can get 15 to 25 extra plants. Now you can see you have a bunch of paddy plants, not a single plant, and it's very well grown because you are adding all the liquid fertilizer and making it to nourish. The soil is very well looked after. It's full of helpful bacteria. So the plants grow well. You get a very high paddy crop, and the crop can easily go up to 150 bushels per acre when you are doing now. And sometimes it can even reach 160, 180. And when you are doing paddy types like Kirisamba, which generally give lower crop, like 60 to 70, with chemical-based farming, you can easily reach something like 90 to 100 bushels. So this way, you are going to get a bigger crop with modern organic farming, and you can learn a lot about that using this particular video, and watch this video as well. Now, when we talk about liquid fertilizer, it's not easy to use liquid fertilizer for things like pepper and tea. Why? We don't want to spray anything onto the tea leaves. So how can we be successful? If you are spraying anything, we must spray it to the root, but not to the tree. But spraying in a tea which is grown like a carpet is also not easy. So for that, we can use data-D technology, which was developed by a very good chemical engineer in Sri Lanka. Is Professor Anul Perra from Department of Chemical and Process Engineering of University of Moratu. He, by looking at the way the food is digested inside the stomach, he found an enzyme which is not based on chlorine, but based on the phosphoric acid and nitric acid. So he found an enzyme that is based on phosphoric acid and nitric acid. So you add anything you want. It can be fish market waste, it can be leaves, anything you want. All the proteins and carbohydrates will be digested by this enzyme. So first you digest all this fish market waste. Then you'll ask, why fish market waste? Fish market waste has a lot of proteins. Protein means nitrogen. So if you want to create a nitrogen-rich fertilizer, you must use all the rubbish from fish market, because it's all this rubbish is proteins. And use proteins, convert it to a protein-rich, the nitrogen-rich fertilizer. Then you need many other things. So what you do is, after mixing all these things, when it becomes a liquid, when you add enough things so that it is full of all the substances you need, you'll add a power of phosphate to this Epalophosphate also will be dissolved by this enzyme, but you know very well epalophosphate does not dissolve in water, but it will be dissolved by this enzyme. So we add epalophosphate to get phosphates, and then you also add dolomite at the end to neutralize the enzyme. So the moment you add dolomite, you get magnesium and calcium. So you can make a fertilizer within 1 hour, which is in par with a chemical-based fertilizer. And delta D, because all these chemicals have gone up, prices have gone up due to supply chain problems and dollar crisis and all that, and devaluation of the rupee. 1 liter of delta D will be available. The moment the chemicals are available, Professor Anupera has promised to make this fertilizer. At the moment, there are no chemicals in Sri Lanka to make it. And the moment he makes this enzyme, what you do is you can use it 750 rupees per liter, and you can make about 60 to 80 kilograms of organic fertilizer by using 1 liter of enzyme. By using 1 liter of enzyme, you can make 60 to 80 kilograms of high grade organic fertilizer. Why we say high grade is it is in par with any chemical fertilizer that you can buy, because it's rich with nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium. Because phosphorus will come from, potassium will come from all the things that you add. The green leaves and everything will have potassium. So you will get a fertilizer which is in par with chemical fertilizer. So what you do is, if you want to have a bigger harvest from the vegetatively propagated tea plantation, what you do is you can add delta D based organic fertilizer at 300 kilograms per acre. So your cost will be something like 5,000 rupees to add fertilizer to your tea plantation. And you know very well, these days you have to pay 8,000 to 9,000 rupees for 50 kilograms of fertilizer. But you need about 200 kilograms at least to get a good crop. But here you can see for 5,000, 6,000 rupees, you can add this fertilizer. So I have shown you many methods. For paddy, we add leaves. Only thing is, when you are doing organic farming, you need to toil a little harder, because you have to add all these, you have to find these leaves, you have to add it to the field, and then every 15 days you have to spray these liquids which are not harmful at all. You can take time, do it slowly. This is not like, spraying poison, right? We are spraying water, basically water, full of nutrients. And you need little more labor, but it comes free, because we cannot expect the government to give any fertilizer subsidy in future. So to add fertilizer, you need 20,000-30,000 rupees. And instead of doing that, you can work with the system and add liquid fertilizer, at which you can make yourself without any cost. And then the only cost will be spraying it. But the moment you spray, you are going to get a higher crop, a bigger crop, and all these extra costs can be easily absorbed. It can be easily absorbed because you are getting a bigger crop, which can be sold at a higher price. The moment you start using our traditional varieties of paddy, which can reach about 125 to 150 rupees per kilo. So the normal paddy might be about 100 to 120 in the future, but the moment you go for traditional varieties of rice, because the kilo is sold around 300 rupees, you can easily fetch something close to 150 rupees. And then you'll ask, why should we go for traditional varieties of rice? The reason is they are pest resistant, they give good harvest, good crop, and most important, these traditional varieties are full of medicinal value. Some are good for your skin, some are good to control diabetics, and the most importantly, you can't eat these traditional varieties in large quantities because these are very heavy varieties, because they are grown naturally, they are very heavy, not like the light varieties of modern varieties, but they are very heavy. So although you pay a higher price, you can see that you are eating less. And because you are eating less, you will have many advantages, because any nation eating too much rice will not develop them very well, because the moment you take a big meal, lot of energy in your body will be used to digest, and all that energy will come to your stomach, and it will not allow enough blood supply to the brain. So you'll find your efficiency goes down the moment you eat a lot. And this happened in Japan. Japanese used to eat a lot of rice before the Second World War. Now they eat very little. Now you can see Japanese are doing very well, because any nation eating too much rice, you feel sleepy all the time, because a lot of energy in your body is diverted to digest the food, then feed in the brain to do some productive work. So if you want to know about Delta D technology, please visit this particular YouTube video. You can get all the details. And then there's a channel. There are so many things in the channel. And the channel is, if you are searching under Google, say Google. Under Google, you have to say YouTube SL Organic. If you are in YouTube, type my name, MTR Jaisinger SL Organic. Either way, you can download these videos, you can watch the videos, and you can also make use of the facts in the video. And if you have anything to, any comments, please write to us. We'll investigate further. And if there are any errors, omissions, anything, please let us know. We can make more videos, because we are very active in doing organic, 100% organic farming using modern technology. And even this time, Mr. Ruchira has done some plantations. So I asked him to send some photos, and she sent some some recently. And we have used these methods to grow other plants as well. The moment you enrich the soil, soil will look after your plants. The moment you go with liquid fertilizer, it will further strengthen the process, and you can get a wonderful crop. And how you do the pest control is, when you are doing this liquid fertilizer, you will add plants like gandapan, and that will make insect repellent, because the insects don't like the smell of all these plants. So that's why we spray the whole plant with the liquid fertilizer, and that way we can make use of the same fertilizer as an insect repellent. And that's why, you know, these people who are doing organic farming generally do not have any insect problem. They don't have any weeds problem, because they, instead of stagnating the water for 10 days, they generally stagnate the water for 20 days when they are doing organic farming. The moment you stagnate the water within the paddy field for 20 days, no weed can ever survive. So weeds, no seeds, that means no weeds, because seeds are damaged because water was there for 20 days. So that's why the farmers start farming little early so that they can keep the water stagnated for 20 days instead of 10 days. And even if there's one of the main advantages of organic farming is even if there's a drought, the root zones are about 1.1 to 1.5 meters deep. So deep there'll be plenty of water. So even if there's a drought, still nothing will happen to your organic farming plots. Whereas the root zones are very shallow when you are feeding from top all the time using the chemical fertilizer. So the moment a drought comes, paddy field will die. So that is the other advantage of doing organic farming. Because root zones are so deep, even if there's a drought, still nothing will happen to the paddy cultivation. So with that, we can say good strategies for future. Grow nitrogen fixing plants like Vatamara, Pilpil. We all thought those are invasive plants, but those invasive plants are the best friends of ours because they are rich with all the nutrients. And the moment we cut them and use it, they will grow again. So fantastic. And Ipil, always people think it's a problem. It's not a problem, it's a asset, because once you cut the branches, tree will grow again, but you can use the trunk as firewood, leaves as fertilizer. And then use mana plantations, because mana is again invasive plant. It grows everywhere. Everywhere in Sri Lanka you go, it's full of mana, but it's a very good plant because it's giving us nitrogen. Never ever add chemicals to the soil. Don't add any chemical to the soil, because the moment you add chemicals to the soil, you are killing the desirable bacteria. And use modern farming techniques to get the maximum out of organic farming. And that's where all these modern gadgets like weeders should be used, along with Jiva Amurtha type liquid fertilizer. And with that, I would like to conclude. And if you have any questions, I can answer. And I can see about 20 questions. And so basically, the links are there. The YouTube channels are there. So what I do is, please send, you have got all your Gmails. Is there anybody who can collect the Gmail addresses given in the chat box?
Yes, sir, I will collect.
Yeah, can you please collect, because I can,
collect,
yeah, is that Imanta?
Samira, sir.
Samira, please collect all the Gmail addresses of the participants and ask them to type an email address so that they can send their email addresses to you. Can you type your email address on chat channel so that they can all take down that one, and then they can send their email addresses to you, and then you can send the presentation to them. And if you can type your email address on the chat channel, I also can take down your one. Yes, someone? Vijay Ratna? What's your question? Who wants to ask a question? Anybody who wants to ask a question, please do so. What is your email address? So what I do is I will send the presentation to our chairman of the civil engineering agriculture engineering sectional committee. Shall I do that? So that he can share it with you, with all of you?
Professor Jaising, okay, we will do that actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. So I will send it to him, but I think I have right, coconut. Delta D can work with coconut, and on the other hand, coconut you can make nitrogen-rich fertilizer, but you have to add dolomite also. Coconuts like calcium, so you have to add dolomite and little bit of soil. Mild addition of salt to the soil, very mild addition of salt to the soil plus dolomite. You can get good results with coconut once you start adding nitrogen. Start adding nitrogen-rich liquid fertilizer or Jivamurta, any of those things, and add to the root system and add dolomite that is rich with calcium and magnesium plus little bit of salt, mild addition of salt. You can get good results with coconuts. Any other question?
Professor Jayasinghe, in the chat box, there's some question.
Yeah, what is the question? I'm asking.
I can read it for you.
Yeah, what is the question, please?
Yeah, is it possible to use organic fertilizers for existing coconut plantation around 10 years old?
Yeah, no problem, because basically in early days we never added any what do you call chemicals to the coconuts, but we had huge coconut crop, and I can remember, we had a lot of coconut trees in our land in Kottawa. We had half an acre land, and we had our other relatives' lands. They were all full of coconut trees, and all those coconut trees were full of coconuts, but we never used any chemical fertilizer, because the use of chemical fertilizer will make the coconut tree lazy. So what we have to do is stop using chemical fertilizers, add dolomite, add little bit of salt water, mild addition. Don't add too much because it can destroy the coconut tree. And also you can start adding nitrogen-rich liquid fertilizer that you can make yourself by cutting the grass grown under the coconut trees. You can make, because grass is an invasive plant, Mana is an invasive plant, Batamara is invasive, is a nitrogen-rich, nitrogen trapping plant. So there are so many different plants. So you can have an undergrow, or you can grow all these plants on the boundary, and then cut these plants, use it as fertilizer. And those days we used to actually cut the roots and bury all the leaves, and then we used to add calcium-based things like calcium carbonate, but these days you can add dolomite. So when you add all these things, you'll find now the crop can be improved. But one of the problems with the coconut is coconut tree likes water, but these days we are getting longer droughts that can affect the coconut tree. So you have to have some kind of system of ditches in the coconut plantation, so that all the rainwater will be absorbed by the plantation itself, rather than allowing it as a runoff. So never allow rainwater to move out of your land. Make sure all the rainwater is trapped inside your land, so that the groundwater table will remain reasonably high, so that the coconut tree can easily withstand a drought. So that's another requirement. And you would have seen the coconut triangle, the coconut trees are very well grown within the intermediate zone of Sri Lanka. And because Kurnagal, all those areas are intermediate zone where you get reasonable rain throughout the year, and you don't get too long droughts as in the dry zone of Sri Lanka. So in the dry zone of Sri Lanka, it has grown very well close to the reservoirs, but at isolated places where there are long droughts, this might not grow very well. So basically, coconuts can be improved with a lot of techniques like retaining the water inside the coconut plants and also using various natural means rather than using artificial. The moment you start adding nitrogen, even a grown tree will start responding. Have I answered the question? Any other question?
Professor Jayasinghe, there's another question. I don't know.
Yeah.
What is the possibility of making the fertilizer? I think it should be organic fertilizer for commercial use of large paddy
No,
fields.
I mean, there's nothing called organic fertilizer. We add green leaf to the soil and enrich the soil, allow the soil to become rich with aerobic bacteria because we are feeding the aerobic bacteria. Then we grow the plant. Now we start looking after the plant by using liquid fertilizer. First, organic, add leaves, but you can gain very little by adding compost. But if you want, you can add compost, but don't add compost alone. Always make sure you add a lot of green leaf. And if you don't have leaf, you can use jack, mango, any plant around you, cut leaves so that those will grow again very well, because sometimes these trees are too bulky. So you can cut these branches, not the tree, branches, and then use it as a medium for enriching the soil. And what we do is we allow aerobic bacteria to thrive in the soil by feeding it with green color leaf. Brown color leaf cannot feed these aerobic bacteria because there's nothing to eat in those leaves. That's the difference. Did I answer the question? Any other question? We cultivated turmeric with compost bought from outside, 1 ton per half acre, 2 times. Only around 250 grams could be obtained. What should be the reason? The reason is you have not enriched the soil. You have added something dead to the soil. Because you added something dead to the soil, soil did not respond. So always, I have grown turmeric with my grandmother. What we did was we made the soil very loose. When I was doing that, I was only about 10 or 11 years of age. And I used to work a lot with my grandmother, doing various kinds of cultivation. And when we did turmeric, what we did was we made the soil loose, and then we added layer by layer of leaves, and then only we planted, we got a good crop. So the moment you bring anything from outside like compost, you are going to lose, because you are bringing something dead, nothing to eat in it. So no bacteria that is going to, no favorable bacteria will grow in that kind of soil. So you have got a dead soil, you have added another dead material, so soil was dead. A dead soil cannot give you good crop. That is the reason. And again, I can tell you, all these methods are adopted by under the leadership of Brigadier Arosh Rajapaksa of Sri Lanka Army. He is the Director of Agriculture, and they grow a lot of organic food, and they even make these 6 months, the packets that can be kept for 6 months, that are taken by the soldiers who go for long-term training in the jungles. They make, they use autoclaves and heat it to 180 degrees, make very high quality food, and they are all from their farms, and they have cattle, so they have cow dung, urine, everything, and they make jivamut. They use jivamut in their crops, and they are getting a good crop. So if you want the details, always you can contact Brigadier Arosh Rajapaksha by visiting an army camp, and I don't know whether he will answer your call because he's a busy person, but you better see whether you have any contact with army person who can help you to visit their farms, and also same thing is done by state special task force. All the special task force, they get some money for food. So what they do is around their camps, they grow their own organic. They do their own organic farming, and they grow their own food. So what is the possibility of making fertilizer for commercial use for large paddy fields? When you make 100 liters of jivamut, 100 liters of jivamut needs 10 kilograms of cow dung and 10 kilograms of albizia or vatamara and 2 liters of urine. Then this 100 liters is sufficient to apply 20 acres of paddy field. 20 acres of paddy, because we need only 5 liters per acre. 20 liters of paddy field, 20 acres of paddy field can be applied with 100 liters of jivamut. So, I mean, are you talking about anything bigger than 20 acres? I'm sure not. Because if you are cultivating 20 acres of paddy field, it's a massive area. Any other question?
Professor Jayasinghe, there's one question.
Yeah.
After adding green leaves, how long will it take to become a fertilizer?
Well, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, after adding green leaves, how long will it take to become a fertilizer?
No, actually, what happens is when you make the soil loose, and then it's full of oxygen. Then aerobic bacteria will start acting on it, because if you want to make it faster, you can add a little bit of cow dung and all that, and bake the reaction, and then the paddy will grow, and as the paddy grows, you are supplying the liquid fertilizer as well. Then the paddy plant will start feeding the aerobic bacteria. So these leaves will decay for about 2 years. During this period, even if you do not add anything else, just add whatever, don't take too much out of the paddy field. Don't take straw out of the paddy field. Put all the straw back to the paddy field after chopping it. Put everything back to the paddy field. Take only the paddy. Then you are not taking anything out of the paddy field, and you can add whatever you can that can be used as fertilizer, but don't add the chicken farm waste unless you send it through a delta D solution, because they use so much chemicals in chicken farms. You really do not know what you are adding, and they are full of harmful bacteria. And if you are adding chicken farm waste, send it through a diluted solution of delta D. So what you do is, when you are making organic fertilizer by using delta D, we add chicken farm waste to the delta D solution. The enzyme will break everything down, and you'll get a nitrogen-rich fertilizer. And delta D technology can be used in paddy fields as well. You can add 300 kilograms of delta D based fertilizer to the paddy field. It will work. It will be like adding a chemical based fertilizer. So it will never ever kill any bacteria in the paddy field. It will never ever kill any aerobic bacteria in the paddy field. So you'll find, if you want, you can use delta D based fertilizer in paddy fields or any other crop. Then if you don't want to use delta D based fertilizer, then you can go with fresh leaves, and then and then that will look after the soil. Then you can start looking after the plant. Plant will in turn look after the soil. So you get a very sustainable system, and you get real true farming, because you are not killing anybody to get a crop. Whereas chemical based farming, we kill so many insects, and in doing so, some farmers kill themselves by inhaling those poisons. So none of those problems will be there. And then, because we are not using any chemical, it will not contaminate the drinking water sources. The moment drinking water sources are free of heavy metals, people can never ever get CKDU, chronic kidney disease of unknown etiology. Will not happen. So they don't know the reason, but if you want, I can share the kind of simple medicine that is available to cure CKDU in about 10 to 15 days. So if you want, I can share it. So I'll share that information also on the same email. If you want any kidney problem, you can make use of this particular simple medicine, and that can cure the illness very easily. So basically, if there's no other question, we can wind up the presentation, and the time is 7 o'clock. So we started 5:30. So if you want anything to be discussed, please let me know. Otherwise, we can wind up the presentation. How about these numbers? Email addresses, can you all collect it, because I am unable to collect all the email addresses. Who is organizing this? I think Engineer Hemachandra is not there. So who is organizing it?
Professor Jaising, actually, we can share presentation as well as other details. I checked with the ISL staff, so all the comments will be recorded. So all the
comments are all recorded, so all the email addresses are available.
Yeah, we can ask, and they will send the email to presentation and link to all the engineers who participate.
All right. So you are Hemachandra, is that?
Yeah, I'm Hemachandra.
Oh, you are back, right? Okay, Mr. Hemachandra, can you send me an email mtrjaising@gmail.com so that I can reply to?
No, I think ISL.
I think I have your email. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I have your email. So I will send it to you.
Professor Jaising, right? ISL staff will do actually. They will share all the presentation and.
But they don't have the presentation, the fresh presentation. Yeah, I want to send the PowerPoint, not the PDF.
Yeah, please send us the PDF. We will share.
Because from the PowerPoint they can do copy and paste for all the email addresses.
Okay, we'll do.
Right?
Thank you. Engineer Thamira will do the vote of thanks. Engineer Thamira.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this occasion. First and foremost, I thank our speaker, Professor Jaising, for accepting our invitation despite his busy schedules, has found time to conduct this webinar. Next, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to Chairman of our Sectional Committee, Engineer M.G. Hemachandra, for uncertain support in organizing this event, and Dr. Anil Sugudadasa, who worked hard to ensure this event become a memorable success. Then I would like to thank the staff of the IESL Publicity Division for facilitating this online platform by working behind the screen. At last but not least, I thank all of our colleagues for your cooperation in making this event a success. Now let's wind up this session. Once again, thank you all for your attention and cooperation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.